Hey, this is the Drupal usability meeting for January 15th, 2019. We have almost full call. It's amazing. We haven't had that in a while. And we have some stuff that we did not have time last week to cover around Layout Builder. And then we'll also talk about directional questions for the new admin UI and the media library progress around vertical tabs, I believe. So plenty of stuff. So let's start with layouts, since that was on last week and then we ran out of time. Ted.
Okay. Sorry, I had to reboot right before this call. So I will put in chat one of the ones that we're looking at. Pointer. So this is a issue to be able to have a reorder blocks without using a pointer device. So basically, if you can't drag and drop blocks via the UI, to have an alternate way of doing that. Share my screen. So I'm just going to switch to this. So initially we had a couple ideas to have, let me just show the videos since that will be quicker. But I don't think they've changed much since then. Or I'll put a link. Is showing videos on this, is that doable as far as like lag time?
I think it's doable, yeah.
Okay.
Before.
Trying to find the last issue with the video. Okay. Can people see my screen?
No, I cannot.
Can anybody see it?
No.
No, not yet.
Now?
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Okay. So, so this is the layout, and there's going to be some new.
Here's an example of.
I will just block form. I'm going to mute that. There's going to be some new contextual links. This is the wrong. That's it. No, there it is. Okay. So you see here that with the configure remove block, there's a new move block link here. And then when we open it up, basically what is shown here is the region that it's currently in, and then the current block that you want to move is highlighted. And it would be listed, in this case, there's only one section, I think. But the region would have the sort of section and region that you would move to. So if we had multiple one, it would list the region names up there. And then when you reload that, continue on here. I think this one, I'm actually just moving this within the region. And then I save it, and it's moved up to the top of that particular region. And then the next one is we're going to move it to a separate section. So the same block. move it. Then this should. All right. So this has changed slightly, only in that we're listing all of the regions here. I think the latest patch had section, instead of just saying first, it would say section 1 first, section 1 second, and then section 2 content would be the current one that we're on. The reason we did that, I think, is because screen readers won't announce the option group, so we have to give all of the information in the same in the actual option as opposed to an option group. So we switch to a different section, different region, and at that point it's going to reload the blocks that were there. So if you see a few minutes ago we had 4 blocks listed, and then when we go to the next region, we just have the 2 blocks listed that are in the current, the second region. And then if we save that, then it moves. Oh, I moved it up to the top of that second region. Then we save it and we see it up here. The Brazilian dog one here is the one that's being moved. So that is the basics of it. I think there is a remaining issue to refocus the layout on the new place that you're at. So if you move from the top to the bottom, you might not see the block that exists. I had a call with Andy McPherson and some people from Berkeley, because they have a panel set up that they've put a lot of effort in to make sure it's accessible. So they're really interested in having an accessible layout builder in Drupal 8. We had tried some sort of keyed navigation or arrow navigation on each block, being able to just click it and move it. That was sort of determined that it was sort of too novel for as far as accessibility, that we shouldn't be sort of trying to do new patterns in this case, that we don't really have tests outside of that, outside of Layout Builder, outside of Drupal. So questions?
So do you see people who just prefer to use the keyboard using this, or is this only for people who can't use a mouse and click and drag?
But could be both, especially if you have a large, if you have a lot of sections and a lot of regions within there. It could be, I mean, we can improve drag and drop, but it might be still hard to drag from stuff that's currently not in view in your viewport to stuff at the very top if you have a long layout. The other thing is currently the sections aren't, or the regions aren't labeled, though they may be in the future. So if I tell you to move, if I give instructions to somebody to say, move the YouTube video block from the second section of the third, or second region of the third section up to the first region of the first section, that may be more understandable via that form than via drag and drop. So it could be useful for sort of being able to actually describe what you're doing. And if you need to describe to somebody else what you want done, the form might be easier.
And can you remind us, how do you trigger that that form?
It is done through a context. So all of the, let's see, I should.
Oh, that's right. There's a contextual link.
A contextual link. So kind of Layout Builder really doesn't work if you don't understand that each block within the Layout Builder has contextual links, and to do actions on them to open up the contextual links, you have to open up the contextual links. So you can't, that's how you remove blocks. That's how you configure existing blocks. So I think part of the reasoning for doing that is if there's a problem with the sort of contextual link patterns for blocks in Layout Builder, we should make sure they're prominent and they're usable. And that would benefit all the actions that you might take.
Let me see. Oh, I'll weigh in on the move pattern that you have is really common. I've seen that a lot for drag and drop because I look at a lot of form builders and that, they have these fancy UIs to, use the mouse, but a lot of them have the move pattern where you have a contextual link, you click move, and you go into a mode where it's easy to see what you're doing. Very deliberate. I mean, some of them go down the path where you hit move and then it's like move up, down, left, right kind of approach. But this is more like move it anywhere you want. I like what I see. Ted, when you're in that move sidebar, so the keyboard's not where you're using the mouse to drag and drop to move the element up and down in the current set of blocks.
I was actually, so that demo probably had another fix for, there's a problem now with table drag in keyboards.
Mm-hmm.
So once that patch is in, then you'd totally be able to do it with a keyboard, right? I mean, there's a patch that I think is very close on that issue. If the thing is that right now, even if you tried to do like the block layout page with table drag and keyboard, it doesn't work. So we really need to fix that for this issue, but also just for anything that we want, where we want table drag to be accessible.
Yeah, I would love to see that patch because I'll definitely test it.
Yeah,
because I'm totally get the concept. Like we need some way to focus on an element and then move it with the keyboard. Yeah. And I'll definitely put some time into testing it because that's a big limitation with table drag right now.
Great.
And those are two separate patches, just to be clear.
Yes, the table. I mean, the one I showed you works fine if you use the mouse to move the element in the form. It's just the bug I think in table drag is when you tab to an element in the table, you should immediately be able to use your keyboard to go up and down to move the item, and that doesn't work now anywhere in Core, I think.
Yeah, no, I've never seen it in Core, so yeah, that's why.
Yeah, it did work at some point, and then there's something broke it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other? Yeah, I'm glad to hear it's something people have seen other places because that was sort of I had like 3 other patches on it, and I think one of the main detriments against the other methods was it wasn't something people had seen somewhere, so we would kind of be not following sort of good usability and accessibility patterns that people have seen other places.
Yeah, and I'll just emphasize, I've seen it when it's deliberately done for accessibility.
Yeah.
Period. Like the contextual link, you hit move and you go into this mode where it's very easy to move things. And yeah, like Cognito Forms is one that uses it. Very deliberate. They go as far as like you're trying to drag and drop. You click that move mode and it gives you like a up, down, left, right arrow kind of concept. And if you press up, down, left, right, it'll start moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great direction. I think like what you have, if someone comes up with new patterns to improve on, it's a good starting point.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to just, unless anybody has concerns about it, obviously the issue's there and it's not done, so could use sort of feedback in general, but it sounds like people generally like the general idea. I put another issue in there. I'm about to load up.
I guess I would like to see another way to get to the sidebar, like sort of a rearrange blocks link somewhere, but that's probably out of scope for this issue.
Yeah, so I thought about the rearrange blocks thing. The sort of problem with that is if you're shown a section or sort of the section region drop down on the top and then the list of blocks, if you use that same form and you say, okay, I want to go to a different region, then, you know, which blocks do you actually want to take to that region? Like, because the one where you're moving it in just one block, then when you switch to another region, you know, oh, the block that I started with, that is the one I want to take to the new region. Whereas if you start with just a general rearrange blocks and you move from section to section or region to region, which could be through sections, you have to somehow say, oh, and I'm going to the other section because I want to move block 1, 2, and 3, which complicates the form a bit. Does that make sense?
I guess you're saying there's no natural way to select the block to be moved if you start from an overall summary?
Well, you may want to move multiple, right? If you're just saying rearrange blocks, that implies that you could rearrange multiple at the same time across different sections.
I get the problem. Like, there's rearrange blocks in a region, but to move blocks from one region to another, should you be able to do bulk? I mean, in my mind, you have a block and you're like, this is in the wrong region. I need to move to new region or move to different region. And that's a one-off. Like, and the menu system works that way. Like, if you were talking about the accessibility of the menu system, you go to the menu item and you change the parent. And that's a one-off move. And I feel comfortable with the accessibility of that pattern where you're only moving one thing at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already said that providing this extra way of getting there is out of scope for this issue.
Yeah.
Being able to move multiple blocks is way, way more out of scope than that.
Yeah, so Benji, I'll put another issue in, sort of related issue in the chat. This is sort of making an alternate, the idea of maybe making an alternate UI. Right now, what we're thinking is, and maybe we'll get to this issue actually if we have time. So it would be perhaps opening up a list of all regions and blocks, and we could perhaps reorder there. There is another issue that I wanted. Laurie actually looked at this issue and asked for a usability review. This is graying out non-essential parts of the page when adding new sections, or I think new sections or new blocks to the layout builder. So here we have, and this one actually have, we have the layout builder here, and we have this add section, and within regions we have add blocks. So this is what it looks like with the patch. Without the patch, this add section is not highlighted and the background is not grayed. The idea here is that on a complex layout, you want your eyes to be drawn to the thing that you're currently doing. And generally on the issue, people like the idea of it. The thing that Laurie brought up that he thought needed a review was we gray this out so it kind of looks like our modals, but you can still interact. It doesn't actually stop you from interacting with anything. So if I wanted to go here and configure this form, I'm sort of taken out of that add section mode that I was in. Or also, if I want to add the block, I can still click this add block link, even though it was grayed out. But now then this add block is highlighted, and I can see, okay, I know if I click here, the block that I'm going to add is going to go right here. Similarly, the idea with the section is I know when I add the section that it's going to go in the highlighted places, and it kind of grays out the rest of the area. But I guess the idea is, you know, if it was like a modal, like we do with other stuff, we gray out the back and the rest of the page, and you can't actually interact with the rest of the page. One reason I don't want to do that here is I got a lot of feedback on other issues for Layout Builder from Andrew McPherson that we really don't want to put the user in a position where they're sort of stuck in a particular mode and they can't get out of that mode until they figure out how to get out of it. So if I hit add section and now you can't do any of the other stuff, like I couldn't say, oh, actually I didn't want to add a section, I want to add a block, and I actually have to close this out first. You're like giving them one extra step and a point where they could be stuck and say, well, I didn't actually want to do this. What I want to do is add block. And you don't want to sort of make the user, if you don't have to, put them into sort of a modal, what he described as a modal pattern, not modal as in modal dialogue, modal as in you are in this current sort of phase of the layout builder and you must escape from that phase before you can do something else. Meaning if you didn't want to do this, then you have to figure out how to get out of it to do the other thing. Whereas if I click add section and I'm like, oh no, I didn't actually want to do that, I can just click add block and now I'm on the next, action, which I really intended. So, thoughts?
Can you press the escape key right now?
Yeah, escape would take me out.
Yeah, because that's exactly the pattern I expected. So,
and escape would take you out even without the patch. Escape would take you out. It's just you wouldn't see it. The patch is the highlighting and the graying out of the other parts.
Yeah, it seems to me that the graying out suggests, at least to me, that the grayed out part is inactive. And if I accidentally click on some stray part of the screen, I'm going to be surprised if something happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So would the other pattern be that it's highlighted? You click on something, it's highlighted. Not everything's grayed out, but the add block is yellow, for example. So we know we're looking at that. It's highlighted, and that hints that you can go highlight other things. I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the other option. I think I'd have to look back at the original summary. The original summary was like they wanted a gray out for it. I guess Tim made this, so maybe it's, but I mean, the intention, is that your eye is drawn to the current thing, but I could see how that grayed out part could be.
Yeah, gray out means you're only doing one thing. If you're trying to say, this is the thing you're doing right now, highlighting is the way to go. And I feel like this goes back to the other issue. Like if you're rearranging blocks, like in the previous one you showed, shouldn't the area that you're rearranging be highlighted? I'm just like that might be able to kind of help the usability of both patterns.
Yes, it is highlighted. It is highlighted.
And what was the highlight? Yellow or?
Sorry, you might not have. That video might not have had the latest patch. And
you could just describe it. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it was sort of bolded the border. I think. I mean, we could do this here. We could not gray out. We could just highlight. I think. I mean,
it's not a bad resource using the gray out. I mean, it's useful and it helps people focusing on what they have to do, but having a strange behavior, because usually when you have something gray out, you can't do anything else. So what Benji said, that it's strange and you kind of have the feeling that if you're clicking there, you're doing something wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
That's somehow a feeling, because it's nothing explaining to you that it's a correct next step. So maybe what it could be done, it could be make that somehow to have some kind of hover, so that at the moment that you hover there, it kind of lights or became highlighted somehow. Maybe not as important as the other, but it's like, hey, that's okay. That's a correct thing to do. I don't know.
So are you talking about like at this point or before you start?
No, so where you are right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so then imagine that you hover the add section. Mm-hmm. What could happen is that the add section could become white, and maybe the border, the dashed border, can be white also. Okay. So the meaning will be, yeah, you can do something here. It's not your main task here, but you also can do something, and it's not wrong. It's supposed to be done also.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of follows how the contextual links work here. Is that you can get to all the contextual links, and as you hover over the sections, the contextual links that's start to show up. So we could do something like that, where when you go over the section, or if you go to another, I guess there's not another ad block here, but when you go over the section, it could sort of act like this. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right.
So that it is clear which is the primary action, but also somehow it's highlighted too.
Okay. Let's write that down. Remember that. Actions.
So are we talking about there's two states. There's hovering or highlighting, like focus, and then active. So we have you're hovering on it. It says, it shows an icon or something to say you're hovering, and then you've engaged it and it's active. What would that look? I mean, I like the idea of sticking to the standard web metaphor. You have your focus, and then you're active. Hover and focus to me are the same thing now at this point with accessibility and everything.
Yeah.
And then you click it and it's active. And if we can come up with standard patterns, and Christina, it would be great to think about it that way. Like, you focus on something, it gets a blue, right now in Chrome, you get the blue floating border. And then when you engage it, it does something else, like a background color. And if we have a standard pattern, that will just help everyone understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, contextual links kind of started a pattern where when you this is not new on contextual. This is something that exists in contextual links. When you hover over the section or the thing that the contextual links relate to, well, I guess they become visible at all, whereas your section still is visible, so that's different. I mean, I guess one first step would be to, in this issue, only do the highlighting and not do the gray out, because I feel like the gray out maybe has more complications that we might want to do a larger pattern around other stuff in core. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, maybe also here we could. Yeah. So the active one. So I really don't know the background for arriving to this big region, wide region. So is there any background issue where it was decided to be white or something like that? Mainly because we usually use the blue as the main action. So that's why I'm not really sure when it came to here. So I'm not really I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's just that I just don't know the background there.
You mean the white right here?
Yeah.
Let me show you without the patch, because it may just be something that's just on the patch. So, I mean, without the patch, there's no color change and there's no highlighting.
Oh, okay.
So I guess, yeah, there's actually no visual change at all. You kind of just have to remember where you're at. So especially if you scroll down, and if it's a sort of complicated one, say there was like region or multiple places where you could add sections instead of just two. Well, actually, if I do it here, you'll see it with the add block. So there's these three here. If I hit add block, I kind of just have to remember the one that I added was in the middle.
No.
Whereas with and so there is not though. So I guess in this issue was the one where we actually did the, where we did the, changed it to be white or off-white, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. There was no color change before.
So I think this is something, Christina, where like the new admin theme and the whole kind of UX stuff that's going on there can define this pattern, and then this can be applied to the this user experience where we start, because without this patch it's really hard to use, and with this patch it gets more usable, but it's just a design decision.
Well, also, I mean, it's not an admin UI thing, because this is the front end theme. So,
but it's a pattern. How do you show someone that there's focus, and then how do you show someone there's active?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm throwing out background color, for focus, a border, because that's Chrome, and I just had an issue where I was looking at this, and you got like the floating halo. And for active, to me, background colors seem to be, yellow is the most common one, but that doesn't. I mean, I just feel like if the admin team started to address this and be like, okay, here's a pattern, blue, whatever they come up, whatever, Christina, you feel comfortable with, could really make a big difference, because you're using the admin theme, and then you switch over to the front end, and you kind of have the sidebar, and you'll be like, yellow, oh, it's active. And this is the new pattern. I've never seen this before.
And the actual, as far as how the actual colors were chosen, I would definitely have to look back at the issue. I couldn't tell you that right off the bat.
So I'm seeing this right now that you're saying that. So probably what I would expect here, instead of applying a modal pattern here, I would actually, I know that it's not that easy, but what I would do is instead of highlight that so much, I would, well, actually I would make this overlay, instead of dark, I would make that light. I mean, what I will do is the element that I'm changing, I'm just thinking loud. The element that I'm changing, it should remain more or less as it was, but the rest of the elements should be less important.
Okay.
So instead of making everything dark as in a model, I will maybe try to make that light. Anyway, I'm just thinking loud. I'm not really sure if that's a good solution.
So it's kind of like what you're seeing now, except without the back overlay?
Yes, instead of the black overlay, I will kind of make everything with less opacity, or actually having this overlay light or white or something like that. But that's something that came to my mind. I should actually have to try it, because I'm not really sure if it would make sense and if people would understood that easily.
Okay.
So not a good answer. Sorry.
The idea is to highlight the active element rather than to gray out everything else. And it reminds me of the old Abbott and Costello movie where they're in the Foreign Legion and everyone's lined up and the commander asks for volunteers, and everyone but Abbott and Costello takes a step back.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're telling the rest of the page to take a step back instead of having the thing that we want to highlight take a step forward.
Yeah.
Well, so that you're saying that's the suggestion. Not
exactly.
I'm okay with this suggestion. Yeah. Christina, I'm okay with this suggestion, but I want to point out that right now we have an accessibility issue with active elements being grayed out and not having enough like I personally can't read the grayed out elements. Like we want to be really careful of that. Like if we take focus away, we don't want to lose losing contrast could be a problem, because I can't read the ad block that's grayed out anymore. I can only read the white ad block.
You mean like right now where you're looking at it, you can't?
I'm looking at the screen and I can't read the blue, only the white ad block I can read. I can't read anything else on the page. Yeah, because it grays out. I'm hitting that accessibility issue.
Okay.
So we just want to be aware of it. It's like
okay, I'm not really sure what accessibility
the contrast of the text on the background, it's too close, so it makes it hard for someone to read. It's not high we lose contrast when we like if we blurt it out. That's why
it has to be readable.
Yeah, like we don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm channeling Andrew to be like everything has to be readable.
No, yeah,
if
it
it's,
makes sense.
if
Sorry.
it's in the background, do we actually need it to be readable? Because I think the thought is that people would click outside of this and get back to the main view before they would actually do anything.
Right now they're active. They can click in. Ted, can you click on that? It works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it works. So
Okay, yeah, if people are supposed to be interacting with it, then it needs to be readable. That was my question, if we want people to be interacting with it that way.
I mean, we could stop them. I think we're going to get pushback from Andrew if we stop them from, and maybe if I point out the contrast issue, then.
Okay.
Because I think, I'll have to look back. I think I raised the possibility of just like not letting people interact with the rest of it. But I know I know that was one of the problems we had with the move block thing, is we had a pattern once where you clicked on something and then you had to do the next action, I think over on the right, to actually move the block, and all the other stuff was inactive. And he really pushed back against that because especially if it's different for a keyboard and a mouse user, then you're putting one user in the mode that they have to complete the action before they can do other stuff, and the other user not. I mean, this is different because everybody would be in the same boat. But okay.
I see Andrew's concern on that. It's like right now you'd have to hit escape to go to the next block. You hit tab, enter. So you're getting like you're doubling the amount of work to navigate.
I would actually expect to navigate through each of them with tabs.
Well, right now, actually, your tabbing is constrained to the dialogue.
Here, yeah.
And that is by intention. So I'll make 3 patches, so we have the current way, and then I'll do a patch that does no overlay, and then do one with, just sort of no overlay and just hiding the main thing to see what happens.
Maybe it's already enough to make all the other borders a little bit lighter, to make the active one stand out more.
Yeah, or even the active one a little bit less thinner. What's the opposite?
More bold.
Yeah, exactly.
To be what?
More bold or something like that. So with a different, a darker blue, or with a little bit of blue background or yellow background or something like that. So changing its styles, but not changing the other element styles. Or maybe what Sin was saying, maybe light the other borders, make it them lighter.
De-emphasize them a bit.
Okay. All right. It's looks like this issue has more work to do. I have other issues, but I also know that other people came to the meeting probably with issues too.
Yeah, it would be nice to give a chance to the media and the admin UA team.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for the feedback on both of these issues.
Sure.
No worries. Sean, do you want to demo what we have? Before we do that, I'll just give background on what we're doing. So I think I may have mentioned a couple of calls ago that in Barcelona we came up with new designs for the media library, and Sean has been busy defining the roadmap for that in terms of what we have an ordered list of the issues that have to happen to make that to get that done. And Sean has got a patch already good to go with some significant improvements. Namely, we wanted to change the media library so that it uses, the first step is to change it so that it uses vertical tabs, showing you all the media types that you can reference from that particular instance, separated out in vertical tabs. And we have a patch for that, which Sean will demo. So Sean, go for it, man.
Yes. So in another issue, we already removed the separate browse media button. So you only have one button right now in the media library widget, and that one is to add media. And when
Before you say
open,
anything else, just for the sake of the recording, the issue number is 3020716. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. So when you open the modal of the media library, we now have vertical tabs for all the media types that are configured for this field. And when you switch between them, you only see the media items of that specific type. We have added a selection count in the bottom right corner. When you select items over multiple tabs, they are remembered between the tabs, and the total selection is added to the page across the tabs. And the add media button is still present everywhere, which now is kind of confusing because the add media button only allows you to upload stuff. So adding remote videos from YouTube, for example, doesn't work.
Can I just interject at this point and say that we're sort of doing this in pieces here, and so that is going to be improved as the very next issue after this one is committed. It's also an 8.7 stable blocker. So if you think that that sucks, worry not.
Yes. So that's what Adam's saying is that's the first thing we want to solve after this. That we replace the add media button with a specific form field or source field for the media type you are interacting with. I think that's about everything that this patch is doing right now.
Yeah, that's correct. Just creating sort of the vertical tabs and laying things out in vertical tabs is the scope of this patch. So any feedback on that?
And what's the prior behavior? Were there horizontal tabs or something else?
The prior behavior was that there were no tabs. There was just an exposed filter in this view where you would have to choose, you could choose the type you wanted to look at, but there were no tabs.
Exactly. And what this issue is trying to solve is the media types have media sources, which are plugins, and they can be added by contrib modules as well as custom modules. And each media source has a specific input field. So for remote video, that's a text field where you can add a URL. But there's no way of stopping people from using an address field to provide location-related media items or file upload fields. And we have basically an unlimited amount of input fields that people can create with media types. And we have the problem of how do we make users know which input field is related to which media type. So for example, for YouTube, you probably need to enter a URL and not upload anything, but that could get a little bit complex. And once the right input is given, how could we resolve? It could resolve to multiple media types. So how does the user pick the right media type? And
basically, yeah, it's the whole idea is to make it very clear what kind of media you're dealing with at any given moment. And as Sean mentioned, it's as you've all heard the phrase, "There's more than one way to skin a cat," and that's especially true in Drupal, and that's especially true with the media system. So making it as clear as possible for users, like what type of media they're doing, or that they're working with at any given time, is very, very important. Which is why we're doing the tabs.
I think the tabs work well, and I think the little message of so many of 5 selected works well, but I'm afraid that it works best on a sample demo site where you have a total of 5 media. If it were so many of 3,587 selected, it might not be so obvious that that total referred to all types of media and not just the current.
That's actually a misinterpretation. 0 of 1 item is not 0 of 1 total possible, like total items in the media library. That refers to total number of items you can select for this field. So if the field has a cardinality of 3, then it'll say 0 of 3.
Okay.
It'll never say anything like 0 of 55,273.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is probably a little bit clearer when you actually have a media library that consists of more than 5 items. Because now I only have 5 items in my media library, which is maybe the reason why that could be confusing at the moment.
Right.
Maybe it's changing this text to something like two remaining items to be selected, or can still be selected, or something like that. I don't know.
I was thinking something like that. Maybe like you may select 3 more items, or something like that.
Yeah. If nothing's selected, shouldn't you just say what the maximum is? Maximum 5 items until they start selecting, and then you start doing this counter system. Because I am confused. Like 0 of 1 item selected is and if you say maximum 1 item, that throws them off too.
That actually was how the patch was before, but Andrew had some pushback from an accessibility point of view. So for screen readers, this is super useful information.
Okay.
That you have not selected anything yet, and that there is a number of remaining items that you can still select.
I would not recommend that we let the exact wording be a super blocker on this one also, because it's relatively trivial to change.
Yeah.
Fair. Completely fair enough. And the add media you're handling in a separate ticket. Because when you click add media, when you go through the tabs, you get different dialogues, or it's the same?
We are removing the separate button, and we are going to show the input field for the specific media type.
Let me explain that. It's a little bit hard to visualize because of the way media works, but where that add media button is right now, there will be a small form and what that form will contain will vary by which tab you're on. So for example, for an image field, or if you're on the image tab, it'll be like a file upload field so that you can upload some images. Or if it's like a tweet, it'll probably be a text field so that you can enter the URL of a tweet. And that will replace the add media button entirely.
So click add media right now. That's all I'm asking. Like click add media, you're getting a site. Oh, okay, so it's a file upload.
It's in the current stage, it's always a file upload because that's the only form that was implemented to add media. There's a separate issue to add support for OEmbed media types.
Right.
But that's we.
How does YouTube work?
YouTube, you have to go to the admin media page and you have to say like add new media and stuff. You can't do it from the media library. So the goal that we're getting to here is being able to add YouTube videos directly from the media library.
To figure out that pattern, so when you get,
Right. We have the pattern sort of outlined in the designs. So I can try to find you a link if you want to look at that.
Man.
But that's why we wanted to have the tabs first, because that makes it easier to show different input fields for different media types.
But I guess I just throw it out there. It's like this add media is like half there. It feels to me, I'd go in this direction, take it out and put a link and go manage my media, and it jumps them off into a new tab where they can go and get all the abilities to add media, because this is just file upload. So I was confused by that.
Right, but actually you're seeing it kind of in a half-finished state right now.
And I'm trying to come up with an MVP solution that's not confused. And I completely appreciate that you have to deal with that in a separate ticket. Is there? I mean, unless people feel okay with the add media being just the upload here, it's.
I'd sort of like to stick to one issue at a time.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I do like the vertical tabs, and they do suggest to me that that as I switch from tab to tab, I'm not losing the things I've selected elsewhere. but I think I'd like more confirmation of that. And I wonder if it would be too busy if we added something to the vertical tabs indicating, at least indicating which other tabs have something selected, and possibly how many things have been selected on each of the other tabs.
Is that assumption valid? I don't know that it does remember between tabs.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Wait, I
Okay.
have to deselect some. But yes, so here's 1 of 3, and here's 2 of 3. And they both get added.
I had a really quick question about that modal. Because you have so few examples, what happens when you have like 5 or 10, like more than just a single row? Does it expand down, or is there a way to make more space available within that tab so you see 4 images? I'm just curious what it looks like.
Wait, I can now only upload 1, so let me just upload some more items. So you can just scroll in the modal.
Cool. Okay.
And when you have more items than that fits on a page, the views pager will actually show below this as well.
Okay.
Which also is a reason why showing the number of items below the tabs might be problematic, because when you see image and below that you see 1 item selected, when you go to remote video and you go back, when you have used views filters or the views pager, you might not see the selected item directly.
When you shift between the tabs, does the views pager remember what views page you were on last?
Well, we could do that, but when you start changing the filters, for example, for image, I filter by the my own name, Sean. Then I go to remote video, and we could pass the filter along. Then I change the filter again on remote video to something else, and then I go back to image. Then the image I selected there, we just can't guarantee that the state that you left the tab in is a logical state to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't guarantee that the selected item is on the actual page that you go back to.
Got it.
We have another issue that might solve this. We want to have a link for the 0 or 5 items selected, and when you click that, you see your selection.
That was where I was going with it. If someone can't know exactly what's been selected because there's filters applied, that seems very intuitive. You click on the link, you see what's selected. You can, it's a preview too.
Exactly. So that's there's another issue to implement that.
That sounds good. Thank you for showing me.
Or how about another vertical tab that shows all the selected items? I guess I'm thinking what happens when I reach the limit for this field and there's this one picture that I absolutely have to add, and I'm having trouble finding the things that I need to delete so that I can add this additional one.
Having a vertical tab for that could be a solution. The initial proposal was to make the 0 of 5 items selected a link to show everything, but if there are other or better ways to present the selected items, then yeah, I think the most important thing is that we give users a way to show it and to change it. And a vertical tab could be the solution.
Yeah, because you'll be like for accessibility, if you're keyboard navigating through the tabs, getting to select, like if you're on image and you start tabbing, what happens? If you're on the image tab, you start going into the tab, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to go through everything to get to the select. And after the select,
yeah,
then you probably go to the 0 of 5 items selected.
Yeah, I could see some benefit of making sure that it's easy to get to selected through. I mean, maybe the vertical tabs. Andrew would have to weigh in on that one. Like, what's the right tab sequence to get to selected?
We could add a visually hidden link for it somewhere in the page, show selected or something.
Yeah,
at least for accessibility issues.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like the idea that the lower right hand thing is clickable. For me, from a mouse user, that's fine. But yeah, accessibility, it might need to be one of the first items you can just tap through on a keyboard. That's a great solution to hidden link.
But that's a separate issue, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say this looks great. Like, what are the actionable items you need? Because I mean, I understand there's other tickets, and it makes a lot of sense that we've got like what you have here is like works. I mean, is there any immediate issues that you need addressed?
Yeah, well, what we are adding is the number of items selected in the corner and the vertical tabs, and I think the general response was that the vertical tabs work pretty good, and that the 0 of 5 items selected might need some rewording, but yeah. Oh yeah, what we also did was we added the area live to the number of items selected. So every time you select something, the screen reader reads it out loud. So that's
I think what we were just looking for was general feedback on this and any kind of glaring objections that anybody had, but it doesn't sound like, I mean, this sounds like pretty positive feedback to me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. I guess we will proceed and get this into core.
It's exciting. It's going to be really cool.
Cool. Well, let's
I'm looking
land
forward to using it. I'm pitching it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll try to land it. I don't know if we maybe want to get just procedurally, if it might be wise for us to get official UX sign off on this in the issue, or if I should just bother Angie at some point and be like, hey, you want to commit a thing? But whatever works.
I'm happy to be bothered.
Okay. You signed up. We were all here. You heard it.
Yeah, also posting a summary of the meeting discussion would be nice, at least the conclusions.
Well, cool. Well, thank you, everybody. And we're 3 seconds away from time, which is amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately. Are we? Is a group of people interested to stay on for the next gen admin UI questions?
I mean, I got to jump out, but
I would like to at least answer one question, which is whether or not what's in that issue is enough to get you unblocked, Christina.
Yes, it is. Yeah, mainly
is the best thing to do then to like withhold that topic till next time and then give you time to iterate on the designs, or should we take 5 or 10 minutes for anyone who can stay on to discuss it more?
Mainly from here, what we discussed yesterday with Ethan and Sally is we're gonna start creating issues for now on GitHub to discuss all the points that Ethan made on the issue, and we're kind of discuss and see which of them need an issue on Drupal.org, like for example creating a new role for content editors. We're probably going to pick the existing issue that is there, or for other things we're going to open an issue on maybe on ideas or somewhere else. So that's what we have to discuss for now. Those are the next steps after this really useful issue. So thank you for opening it.
Yay. I guess the only worry about that is that then this really important topic gets talked about on GitHub with 3 people and not like a wider set of people. But I guess as long as you guys are good about posting back to the issue when there's something worth looking at,
Yeah.
I think it'll work.
Yeah, so probably what we really need there is start discussing things and what implication it has for the initiative release, and kind of manage different tasks and see which of them can be done inside the GS or initiative, or really move it back to Drupal.org, because there are several things, like, for example, the editor role, which kind of permissions it should have, and these kind of things. It has to be discussed with much more people.
Okay, great.
So yeah, we don't have time for much more unless anybody has any question about that. And the issue is 3024584. I completely forgot to say that. Nope. Okay. Yeah. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Meeting.
Have a nice week.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.